Welcome to a holiday edition of Flick and the Bosman. And the Bosman has selected this music, and maybe it's a hallelujah because the Jets won a football game.
Yeah, I don't know if that's a good thing or not, but it definitely was a miracle. It was
It's a thing. There's no denying it's a thing.
whether or
Um,
not it's a miracle anybody wanted to see in New York in the Jets fandom, whatever the term is, Jetland. That's another question.
it's another question, and I wasn't strongly rooting for them, but I can't root against them. And as I forget who the Ram was who was returning the punt and looked like he was going to take it to the house, and the Rams would take the lead, and the Jet punter, one of the few reasonably decent Jet players, made the tackle. I was yeah, okay. I didn't know what I still thought the Jets were going to lose virtually the whole time until Gore got the first down with 2 minutes left. I was confident they'd find a way to lose it, but they didn't botch the kneeling on the ball, so
Yeah,
they.
well, you made the comment they should have been playing for a tie, which would have been perfect.
Yes, that's exactly what I wanted. And Rams kick a field goal, and you just go and shake hands. Just pretend
Absolutely.
you didn't understand there was overtime.
Exactly. These rules are complicated. Nobody.
Yeah, playing for the tie is harder than tanking, I guess. But um, Jacksonville's going to come up with a win this week or next week and make the whole thing moot. So you know,
I don't know if I would hold my breath on that one. Jacksonville has been feisty. I got to give it to them. They have not had a lot of games where they've just mailed it in, uh, like the Jets did a couple weeks ago.
well, if you're a regular
What do you
Flick
have?
and the Bosman listener, you can go back and hear that I predicted the Jets would have a 3-13 record. So if the Jets win out here, there you go.
Now I say that the Jags have lost their last two games by a combined score of 71-24.
the
However,
the first scoring update I saw Sunday was Jacksonville falling behind 2-0.
yes, I saw that one as well. They
How
got
did that
the
happen at
cover.
101? I don't fully understand, but
But before that, right up until the end, no. So they lost by 3 to the Vikings. They lost by 2 to the Browns. They lost by 24 to the Steelers. They lost by 4 to the Packers, 2 to the Texans, 10 to the Chargers. So, like they've been in a lot of these games. That's what I
well,
mean by feisty. Like they've shown up and they've been like one possession or one play away from getting another win. So I could definitely see them pulling something out. You would think that their chance would be this week against the Bears, not next week at the Colts, who
well,
are actually a good team.
speaking of miracles, I don't hear a third voice tonight. Could you explain that?
I cannot.
Well, we often have the Flick and the Bosman, a winner of the Beat the Bosman contest, on as the third voice, but there is no third voice, and that means there was no Beat the Bosman winner because nobody who played along had more wins than the Bosman. That's
That is
that
almost
is
unprecedented. I think this is the second time since we've done this that I've beaten the field. And the
second
other
time. You had a 5-0 record once,
ones.
which makes it hard to beat, and you were only 4-1 this last week, and a lot of contestants were 4-1, but you held them off. No one beat you.
All right. Well,
Your only
so
loss
on this.
was the team we're going to have in the first game this week, and it's a
Uh,
game we already mentioned. Your only loss was the Chicago Minnesota game, and I'll make you pick Chicago again. And it's the 7-7 Bears, and they're visiting the aforementioned Jacksonville Jaguars at 1-13.
well, my comment last week with the Bears was that they beat bad teams, and I don't know. I think the Vikings are a mediocre team, but they've really only like they've only lost to bad teams, to good teams. Let me just say that, with the one exception being Detroit. They've lost to the Packers, the Vikings, the Titans, the Saints, the Rams, and the Colts. So the Rams loss looks a little sketchier this time. Now, no offense. Um,
I'm not offended at all. As a Ram fan or a Jet fan, I'm not a Ram fan, but
So then
I'm not offended.
the loss to the Lions is troubling. Like you don't if you're a playoff team, you can't lose to bad teams. Um, but you can lose to the Colts. The Colts are probably going to win 11 or 12 wins, games this year. That's fine. You can lose to the Packers. That's a totally fine win. The Titans. Um, and as I was just saying, like the Jacksonville Jaguars, they've been feisty a lot of their games. But I think Chicago gets it done against the bad teams, and Jacksonville is, even though they're feisty, they're not good. So I'm
So
going with the Bears.
you're going to pick the Bears here. So if you're playing along and you're trying to beat the Boz, which you can do by emailing us, which is flickboz@gmail.com, or it's easier to just respond to where you're listening, which is most likely the YouTube location, or you can get on Twitter @flickboz and put your picks right there, which a lot of people do. If you're going to try to win and be on the show next time, in game one, you have to pick the Bears or the Jaguars, and the Boz man has picked the Bears in game one, which leads us to game two, a team you just mentioned, and you had their record. You were right on the mark there. With the Colts are 10-4, and they're visiting the slumping Pittsburgh Steelers at 11-3.
And this is where my strategy all year of looking at who a team has played and who they've beaten has fallen down. When you get into a slump, a team that has looked good all year suddenly loses to teams like the Washington Team Football and the Cincinnati Bengals. And of course, the Bills were in between there, and the Bills are a good team, we think, but not a great team. Uh, but the Steelers, coming in at 11-0 to that streak, you figure they're going to at least go 2-1 in that stretch, and they went
Yeah,
0-3.
I would say so.
The miss. I think the Steelers figure this out and get back on track, but I'm not sure they do enough. They have enough to get it done this week because the Colts, as I said, the Colts are a good team. They're not, again, I don't think they're a great team, but there's like maybe three. There's a great team, there's very good teams, and there's good teams. And I think they're kind of in that very good range. They're maybe a step above, and playing a team that's I, I as I look, and I haven't seen a lot of the Steelers. I think part of their problem is that Ben Roethlisberger looks old. He just looked like his. We know he's got problems with his throwing arm. He had surgery on it. He seemed like he was pretty healthy for most of the year, but the last few weeks he has looked like he can't make all the throws anymore. And so in this game, I don't know if you put next week's game, Steelers against the Browns on the schedule. Talking today, I might pick the Steelers in that game. I would lean towards picking the Steelers against Cleveland because I don't think Cleveland is a very good team. I think they're a good team. If I can make that distinction as I'm trying to.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
I think the Colts
I would agree with you. Maybe because I understand where you're going with that comparison, and yeah, I see that too.
Yeah, so I think the Steelers will be better this week. I think they'll have figured a lot of things out, but the Colts have a very good defense. They have a decent enough offense, and Rivers has given them the veteran leadership. I think they take this one against the Steelers. It figures to be a great game, and I'm looking forward to hopefully being able to see that.
Now, does Pittsburgh have to do something at quarterback? Let's say in 2021, they had Mariota sitting on the bench most of this year, right? And Ben, as you said, looks old. Do they need to be drafting a QB?
I definitely would. Early in the season, when the Jets were looking like a sure thing for the number one pick, people suggested that the Steelers should trade what figured to be a late first round pick for Darnold at the end of the season. And that makes a lot of sense to me. Rather than draft, use that 27th pick overall to get what was he, the former number 3 or 4 overall pick, and I think Darnold's shown enough that something like that makes sense. Now, if I'm the Jets, parenthetically, if you end up with a number two pick, I'm just rolling the dice with Darnold at that point and going forward with him as our quarterback and use that number two overall pick either for the best available player who's probably not a quarterback or trade down and get somebody more appropriate.
Yeah, and I don't know what I was thinking with Mariota there. He's backing up for the Raiders. Steelers backup, I suppose, is Mason Rudolph.
Yeah, I think
But
you definitely try to get a pick at some point. I think
yeah,
trading for someone who's already in the league makes sense for the Steelers, or getting a veteran of some kind, maybe a Teddy Bridgewater type. I don't remember if Bridgewater is signed for next year or not. But that somebody who can come in and at least be a very good backup, and maybe even take the reins next year if Roethlisberger retires or just doesn't have it anymore.
yeah, that's the dilemma as the Jets now. Do you keep Sam because you don't trust the other draft picks in the first round other than Lawrence? And I kind of fall into that camp, the Ohio State player, the BYU player. I'm sure they're fine players, but do I want to draft them at number 2 overall, or does it make more sense to trade down some, give Sam another chance? So, not an easy job for the Jets GM at this point.
I would absolutely, if I end up with a number two pick, I would in no way, shape, or form use that pick on a quarterback for the Jets. I'm
No,
happy with Darnold as the guy. You got $80 million in cap space. You got the number two pick. You got something in the late 20s with the Seahawks pick, and you got presumably the second pick of the second round as well. So you got a lot of draft capital. You got a lot of capital, and you've got a guy who has shown some ability. Somebody wrote this morning. I read that you used the number two overall pick on the wideout from LSU who didn't play this year, but set a ton, would set the NCAA on fire last year, and pair him up with Mims and that's not a bad idea. I don't know if that's the best idea. Maybe you could do that. Maybe you could get that guy and trade down. Trade down to say 5 or 8 or something.
right.
Get
When I
draft capital
see,
and a top wide receiver.
you could argue their best player right now is Becton,
Yeah,
and I want about 3 more of those on line somewhere, offense or defense.
yep,
And I can do that with a number of picks in the first and second round. And I don't have to do it with the number 2 pick overall.
yep. Not a,
They,
yeah. The
they
only the only guy that's a sure thing is Lawrence, and you need help to get him now.
yeah,
That's where it is.
right. I agree with you there. And we were talking earlier off air about who's going to win the NFC East, and it's still very very hard to tell. But a key game in deciding that is likely to be the 4-9-1 Eagles at the 5-9, currently in second place, technically Dallas Cowboys. Who do you like there, Boz?
Yeah, I like the short answer is I like the Eagles. I think Hurts makes them significantly better than whatever they're getting out of Wentz. Um, and that should be enough. I mean, the Cowboys have been playing a little bit better lately, but they're still not that great. And I don't. Neither one of them has a significant chance to make the playoffs. Um, but the Cowboys, the last 2 weeks, they've beaten the 49ers and they've beaten the Bengals. Um, and then a few weeks ago, they beat the Vikings in what I thought was a fairly surprising upset. Around that, they lost the previous 4 games, and then after
Yeah,
lost the next two.
that that they were able to get it back to this point at being 5-9 surprised me too. I thought the Cowboys were just a team that was kind of falling apart, and without Elliott there as the running back, um, and not having Dak at QB, I
Yeah,
kind of figured they were in line for a 3 or 4 win season, and now. At 5-9, it's at least somewhat respectable.
It is. The tough thing with the Cowboys is even if they beat the Eagles and the Giants in their last two games, they still need a lot of help to get into the playoffs. Um, and it seems like that would be an uphill battle. So my sense is that one, I think the Eagles are just a better team with Hurts. So I think they will win this one this week, and
What
that
do
would
they do
end
with
the
Wentz?
season. What can they do with Wentz? I certainly have not watched enough Eagles to tell you what's wrong with him. You would think that Doug Peterson has done very well coaching quarterbacks in his career, would be able to help him out, but he hasn't. Um,
They have a lot of money
yes,
invested in them.
yeah. I don't know if they're able to trade him. It is a pretty hefty contract.
If they traded him, they would have to throw in a ton of picks or a ton of other players or eat a lot of his contract. If I'm taking him, I'm not spending what the Eagles have spent on him.
Yeah,
If they can somehow cure him and use him next year, that may work, but they may have something in the young guy, and Wentz wasn't happy to be benched, may not be happy to be back. So uh, that there are teams in worse quarterback shape than the Jets, and the Eagles may be one of them.
yeah, which is strange. I mean, they almost have two quarterbacks, but you don't not really sure about either one of them, right? Like Wentz is a former Super Bowl quarterback. He didn't win the Super Bowl, but he helped his team get there. That was Foles. Uh, and and is a top overall draft pick. I forget if he went number one overall, or I don't think so. I think he was like in the top five or something, right? And so I mean they have a lot of draft capital invested in him. He's highly thought of, and for his first few years in the league, he was very very good. Uh,
Wentz went second,
Second,
his second after Goff.
right, right, right. I think the best case they can do is try to work out the personality wise and get them both on the same page, Wentz and Hurts, and uh, and see if you can get them healthy, whether it's physical or mental or what, um, and then at least do something to recoup. Get someone if he can be viable, at least someone else would look at him and say, yeah, okay, I'll trade you, a second round pick for him or something like that. Whereas, uh, as you were saying, like you're going to have to, sweeten the deal to get somebody to take him now.
Yeah, yeah, with just that huge number in his contract, huge number of dollars and huge number of years.
Yeah,
I don't know the exact terms, but I know the little I listened to Philly radio, I know they're not happy about it. And they weren't really happy at the time that he was signed to such a big deal. But you take a shot with a young quarterback, one that looks talented, and certainly Wentz seemed to be headed in the right direction. And
yeah,
almost a can't miss at that point, but this can't miss is missed.
and it's certainly missing. And again, not with Hertz, it's not like we know he's going to be great, but he's been certainly a plus and shown a lot of ability. Um, So, I don't think that's a bad fallback position if Wentz can't put it together. That the Eagles end up, with Hurts as their starting quarterback into the future. The problem, as you said, is what do you do with Wentz? So,
Well, so far we've had 3 games that you've had to select, and you've selected 3 road teams. I don't know if you even realize that, but Boz has taken the Bears over the Jaguars, the Colts over the Steelers, and the Eagles over the Cowboys. If you think you can do better, you can get your selections in at the Twitter site at FlickBoz, or you can leave a comment on YouTube, or even on our Gmail site, flickboz at gmail.com. And I don't have any other NFC East games here in the picks. So you think the Giants can still pull out the division, or
no,
who's going to win this thing?
I think the Giants are in real trouble. They're going to face a tough Baltimore team this week. Baltimore is another team that has um, played a lot of, their strength of schedule, and again, I know I've gotten into a lot of trouble in picking against strength of schedule, but they've really only lost to good teams, except for unless you think the Patriots aren't good, which may be the case. But their losses are against the Chiefs, the Steelers twice, and the Titans, other than the Patriots. So um, I think the Ravens are a very good team. They're going to be a very tough matchup for the Giants. The one thing that may help the Giants is the Giants are very good against the run, and that is the Ravens' strength. So if the Giants' defense can beat the Ravens' strength, they may be able to stay in this one. I don't like it. I don't know who if Jones is going to start. He's listed as questionable again.
That's the main reason we didn't put this as one of the games this week. But yeah, this could be a tough one for the Giants, and I could easily see Baltimore going 11-5 and still not getting one of the three wild cards, which sounds a little crazy, but that can happen.
Yeah, yeah, that is definitely a possibility. So I think I think the Redskins, or sorry, the Washington team football uh, takes the division. If they win this week, uh, they clinch the division. Sorry, let me rephrase that. If they win this week and the Giants lose this week, uh, they clinch the division.
Yeah, there really is a lot of possibilities, but I think the most likely one and the easiest one is Washington wins one or two games and goes into the playoffs and is a quick exit, goes in and gets out pretty quickly.
Yeah, probably. But if they're playing, a warm weather team, they get a home team, a home game, right? Because they're the division winner. They'll get a if Alex
They'll get the
is healthy and their defense is healthy, they can be feisty as well. I hate to use that word again about both the Jaguars and the
yeah,
Washington
but
team.
somebody like the Rams or Seattle will go in there and I don't think they'll have any issue, but we will
Seattle's
see.
capable of losing to anybody, and we saw the Rams
Yeah.
do.
So that's a great segue to the fourth game, and that's how about the 9-5 Rams at the 10-4 Seahawks?
Yeah, well, we mentioned the Rams before, and my sense is on the one hand, how do you bounce back after losing to the Jets? Like that's pretty bad. That's pretty bad.
Yeah, that's a tough one to just shake off.
I think there was a stat some years ago that for a lot of years in a row, a team that lost to the Jets had not won the Super Bowl in any season for some incredibly long stretch of time, which was just one of those weird things. And we're talking about win the Super Bowl here, right? We're talking about can they win their next game?
Yeah,
I think the Rams show some character here. I think they show some guts, and they bounce back from this, and they go up to Seattle, and they beat a shaky Seahawks team. I know the Seahawks have uh, had some good wins on the season, but I think this is one time where I'm going away from my normal. Let's look at strength of schedule thing and who they lost to last week. Normally I think I would look at it and say, well, the Rams can't lose to the Jets. That means they're a bad team. They're going to lose to the Seahawks. I'm going to say the opposite. I'm going to say they bounce back. They show some character. They show some gut, some grit, and they bounce back and beat the Seahawks. The Seahawks are not as good as I think their record indicates. They're 10-4. Um, they lost to the Giants a couple weeks ago. They barely beat the Washington team last week. They barely beat the Eagles a few weeks before that. They lost to this Rams team in LA about 6 weeks ago. Actuality, that may bode to a Seattle win this week because usually it's very hard to for two good teams in the division to go 2-0 against each other. But I'm going to stick with my gut instinct that the Rams bounce back here and maybe surprise the Seahawks a little bit.
Well, if you out there in listening land have some gut instincts different than the Bozman, you can try to beat the Boz at FlickBoz on Twitter, or just put comments here at the YouTube site. And out of 4 games so far, you got 4 road teams, and we'll see if that ends with the 5th and final game, maybe the best game of the week, potentially. And that's the 10-4 Tennessee at 11-3 Green Bay. Take it away, Boz.
So this is very interesting, and we were talking not too long ago, Phil, about the difference between the two conferences, right? So in the AFC, if you look at one of my favorite websites, 538.com, and you look at this chance of winning the Super Bowl, the AFC teams have cumulatively about a 60% chance of winning the Super Bowl versus 40% for the NFC. And the NFC really has, it's the Saints, the Packers, and the Saints and the Packers are far and away statistically the best 2 teams in the NFC. And I don't get the sense that either one of them is really that good.
No, I don't get a sense that Green Bay has beaten a lot of good teams or can come back from well down or face adversity. And the Saints at the quarterback position are currently below average. And I don't love either of those teams. I don't think the Bucs can get on a roll. I would say Seattle or the Rams may have the best chance of winning 3 or 4 games in a row, but not confident of that either. I would say the best 2 teams are probably in the AFC right now.
Yeah, I think hands down, right? And maybe the best 3 even. With you got Kansas City, I think Buffalo is right there now, and the Ravens, the Titans, the Colts are all very good. That's a lot of power there, and then you get the 10-4 Browns, who again I don't think are that great, and the 11-3 Steelers, who looked a few weeks ago like one of the top 3 or 4 teams in the NFL. So let me just go over. Here's the Packers wins. They've beaten the Vikings, the Lions,
not a great win.
The Saints.
Not a great win.
The Saints was a good win.
Good win at the time.
At New Orleans with Breeze there. They beat the Falcons, the Texans, the 49ers, the Jaguars, the Bears, the Eagles, the Lions, and the Panthers.
That's one good win.
One. And they've lost to the Colts, the Vikings, and the Bucs.
They don't pick their schedule, but that's one good win.
They lost to the Colts by 3 in Indy. They lost to the Vikings at home by 6 and the Bucs by 28, which is one of the surprises of the season to me.
They got the Rodgers rate when it came to getting an easy schedule. My goodness.
Exactly. Nicely done. So I think this comes down to the question of you've got arguably the best team in the NFC against maybe the 4th or so best team in the AFC. And the NFC team's at home, nighttime game on national TV. I'm going to go, not on purpose, I'm going to go with my 5th road team here. I'm going to take Tennessee. I think the AFC is better, especially at the top. And I think the Titans have a good defense. They have a great running game. Tannehill does enough, and they've got some decent receivers. It's a pretty good football team, and Vrabel keeps them well coached. I think the Titans show something here, and I think they win on the road in Green Bay.
So you're taking all road teams, and not intentionally, but you went with Chicago over Jacksonville. You went with the Colts over the Steelers, Eagles over the Cowboys, Rams to defeat the Seahawks, and the Tennessee Titans to defeat the Green Bay Packers in Green Bay in prime time. Is that the one you feel the least confident about?
I think the least confident is probably the Rams. I think that would be my second one. I think I feel pretty good about the Bears and the Colts and the Eagles. Not that means anything, because usually, my gut feelings are not that great. But
fair enough. And I wanted to take a couple minutes this week to to thank some people, but I'll give you the chance to do that first if you wish. Any family, friends that you want to give some thanks to in this holiday season?
Well, sure. I mean, first and foremost, my own family, my wife Karen, and my kids for uh, giving me the time to do this podcast and have some fun doing my thing here. I thank my father and my friend Pete and some of the other guys that have listened to some of our shows, hopefully a lot of our shows, and thanks to all you listeners out there who do keep coming back, and hope you enjoy it and keep
Why
coming
you
back.
keep coming back, we don't know, but we thank you.
Indeed, indeed. So, yeah, it's been a fun ride, and it's been fun to have this to do as we got through this pandemic, and at least we have some sports to do. And when we started it, we didn't even have any sports to do. That was part of the challenge, I guess.
Yeah, and we did this podcast in about 2000 or 2001, and as this pandemic was starting, we just kind of had the idea, what if we threw an episode on and see how many people listen to it? And now it's turned into, I think this is our 24th of the year, so
Yeah,
it's a good amount of minutes and hours to put out there. And I'll also thank my wife, thank Kristen. I married way up in class many years ago, and that was a smart move by me. And I thank my daughter Allison. My other daughter I have to thank later, but I know my stepmother Kate has listened. Some other family has listened. Some of our Beat the Boz winners, Hillary, Kevin, who's been on a few times, Liam, Dennis, who we've had on, and
yeah,
kick some butt beating you.
yeah.
Tim Grasso, who is a great football expert and somehow hasn't beat the Boz or been the winner in any particular week, but I wouldn't be surprised if he's on in one of the next 2 weeks. And Jenny Erd, who's been listening and hopefully will put some picks in. And of course, Slick Sandy Boozman, who I said I would give a thanks to. But special thanks to our producer and director and my other daughter who makes the show possible, Caitlin, who, with her fine work in her senior year at the University of Rhode Island, helping to get the show up on YouTube each time. So thank you there to Caitlin. And
Yeah, absolutely. Let me echo that as well, Caitlin. What you did in the
yeah,
past,
Caitlin
it's been awesome.
does a lot of work with not a lot of time and not a lot of talent on the other end with us too. But
Exactly.
and of course, uh, thanks to you, Dave, and you carry me along, and I appreciate that. And it's a whole lot of fun doing it with you. And I don't care if we were just talking on the phone for a half hour or so, but doing the show is a lot of fun, and I appreciate it. So
Oh,
thank you.
me too, Click, and thanks for driving this thing. I think it's safe to say it wouldn't get done without you and Caitlin doing it, and it is a joy. So I appreciate it.
Well, I'm not sure how this closing out song is going to go. We had a nice, classy intro with the holiday theme, but in honor of Dave picking 5 road teams, we're going with some Willie Nelson here to get us out. And everybody, have a great and safe holiday, and we'll see ya on the other side. I can't wait to get on the road again. Everybody say.